You're listening to the Today in Manufacturing podcast.
Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. With me today are Jeff Branke and Anna Wells. We're the editors of Manufacturing.net and Industrial Equipment News, and we each have about 15 years of experience covering the manufacturing industry. Each week, we take the 5 most popular stories on our websites and discuss the implications they have on the industry moving forward. Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. Finally, to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, David, or Anna at IEN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. Anna, how you doing this week?
Good. I feel like this is going to be a good episode. We've hardly seen David at all this week because things have been very disruptive as for everyone.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's going to be a crazy episode.
Yeah, this is like my 5th hour in the office because a teacher caught COVID. So it was also a low stress week, luckily.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm.
You can tell with how strongly you came in.
Yeah.
Like you're definitely low stress, just relaxed.
Yeah, just seems super chill.
My shoulders are like at my ears. Hi! No, it should be fine. I'm talking really fast. So if all the words just kind of bleed together, I'm sorry. Like just slow it down a step and piece it together. All right. Let's jump into our first story this week. Great Resignation, not as great as it seems. This week, Jay Zagorski from Boston University challenged the Great Resignation. He says, it might not be as great as it seems, as you have indicated from the headline. On January 4th, 2022, it was reported that 4.5 million people voluntarily left their position in November. It works out to about 3% of the workforce and was an all-time high, reportedly. The quitting data comes from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and its monthly job openings and labor turnover survey, or the JOLTS survey. The agency gets information from 20,000 businesses and government agencies to estimate how many people quit, retired, got hired, or got fired. Some 33 million people left their positions since April 2021, which is more than a fifth of the total U.S. workforce. At issue is whether or not this is a record because the historical data only goes back about 20 years. So, sure, it's bad, but Anna, it could have been worse, right?
I guess. I think also at issue is the fact that Zagorski kind of points out that certain industries are dragging this number. So like if you look at, I think it's hospitality, retail, those kind of positions that are notoriously lower paid, they have seen a lot of departures. And in November, they saw a lot. That kind of dragged down the average, I think, as it relates to all the industries as a whole, looking at that. So I will concede that. But when we look at monthly departures and manufacturing in November, it was lower than average, as the author kind of pointed out in the article. But are we accounting for the fact that the manufacturing industry was already facing like a skill shortage and a worker shortage even prior to the pandemic? Because if the point of the report is to say that things are not as bad as they seem, I get that on a monthly basis, that there aren't as many manufacturers workers quitting than there were before. But if you look at the industry in the context of starting the pandemic behind, then we're still in a pretty deep hole in terms of open positions. Like in November of 2020, for example, there were about 500,000 open positions in manufacturing. In November of 2021, there were closer to 900,000. Meaning this problem isn't exactly getting better. So I think if the intention of the article is to clear up misleading headlines, let's not further mislead by assuming that this means that there's no jobs problem, because there is a jobs problem. I mean, if you look at some of the data that's come out recently, like Deloitte and the Manufacturing Institute are really good at keeping tabs on this. They reported in mid-2021 that they're predicting that by 2030, 2.1 million jobs in manufacturing could go unfilled. It's not a new problem. I don't think that we should take from this article that there's no problem. I mean, there is a problem.
No, I think the article was more of it's bad, but it's not the worst. Maybe.
Right, exactly. I just, to me, it was sort of like it set out to clear things up. But it's just, now it's another headline that I feel like is also unclear.
Yeah. So Jeff, he talks about how, before they started taking this information down, that there was the .com bubble in the late 1990s and early 2000s. And, after World War II, the post-war American economy was booming and was in flux. So those are both two periods that likely saw higher rates of quitting. What did you think of his take on the Great Resignation?
Yeah, I think this falls into the same sort of category as another story we're going to discuss in a little bit of. It's offered in the right spirit in terms of,
Agree.
hey, historically, this isn't that crazy.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I always do appreciate when authors or researchers try to offer historical perspective on situations. I think that is beneficial, and that is helpful because it helps us to understand we will move past this.
Yeah.
It will be okay with time, which we all know. The thing is, we have gotten so used to 6-month product life cycles, immediate response, next day shipping from Amazon, all those types of things where there is just an immediate reaction or immediate correction to whatever our problem is. This is going to take a long time. This is going to take longer than we anticipated. Partly or mainly because we're not over this yet. We've had a global pandemic that rocked everything to its core, and we're still in the midst of it, regardless of what anybody says. So I think it's good to offer perspective, but at the same time, to Anna's point, if you're a manufacturer struggling to get product out the door, this does not help you.
It doesn't.
This actually kind of adds fuel to those who don't feel it is that big of a problem, when the reality is it is. We've talked about the Port of LA having huge record number of traffic coming through there. We talked about the Suez Canal, despite it being shut down basically for a week, it set a record.
Yeah.
So consumer demand is still strong. We still have people who are buying stuff, wanting stuff. We can't make enough stuff because we don't have enough people producing it, delivering it, putting it on the shelves.
Yeah.
And the bigger thing that I worry about when we do see some of these types of headlines that try to make everybody feel better about things is we sort of sidestep a couple of the biggest issues. Number one being the wage increases that people are anticipating and what that's doing to our whole economy, which is more and more global by the second in terms of inflation, because that's real. If you've been to the grocery store, I mean, I've seen a 20 to 30% uptick in my groceries.
Oh yeah.
I just wanted to put a shelf up in my garage. Went to Menards, okay, which is Home Depot, Lowe's. I think Menards is more here in the Midwest. But what I paid for that is probably, again, 20, 30% more because Menards has to pay their people more to keep them in the store.
Yeah, and materials are just...
Yeah, so it's like I said, it's good to get perspective. But to Anna's point, we still have an issue here. We still have a big problem.
I did think there were some tidbits of information in there that I think could be beneficial for manufacturers. One is that they did talk about how young people do make up the biggest share of people switching jobs. Those are people that are 16 to 24 years old. And they had a turnover rate of almost 3 times the national average. He said that he attributed the lack of after-work socializing and company parties, which help build company loyalty, with the reason that maybe it's harder to retain some of these young people. So we talk about wages a lot and how wages need to go up. But I thought it was interesting that there are other things that, people are looking for in terms of company culture, other fringe benefits. And, I think that the article did a good job of at least pointing that it's in manufacturers, other companies' best interest to try and do some of these sort of extracurricular things that just aren't available because, in a pandemic, nobody's like, hey, let's go get drinks afterwards.
Right.
You know, it's just like, thank you for working for us. Go home and isolate so you can work for us tomorrow.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I get that. That is a tough thing to overcome.
Yeah.
I just wonder, I mean, when you look at the industries that were hit hardest by this, which is food service, retail, other hospitality type stuff, is it that part of it, or is it still the wage thing? Because those people want more money now because they have more options in terms of where they can go. And I just feel, I get all that, but I just think it's bigger than that. It's just this total cycle of self-recovery that's just going to take a while. Bottom line is, if you want to buy a Big Mac at 9:00 at night, because right now McDonald's closes at 7 because they don't have people to stay there, you're going to have to pay $7 for it. Yeah. And over time, ideally, or hopefully with the way things have always worked, if you buy that $7 Big Mac now, eventually you will be able to get it at 9:00. Yeah. And hopefully that price will stay at about $7 or whatever it is.
Wait. The Big Mac costs $7? No.
Oh. I'm saying if you want to have somebody open, have those fast food places open.
You pay for it, yeah.
So. No, I think, it's also, a lot of these industries are normally seen as sort of dime a dozen jobs. Yeah. Like, when I worked in retail and hospitality, it was, I'm here because I enjoy the people, I enjoy the job, and you're paying me the same as the person next door. So,
are you referring to your experience working at the check cashing store as retail?
No. That was just a nightmare of sadness. No, I worked at Sears, I worked at Kohl's, I worked at food places like Rocky Rococo. You know, I worked at pretty much everything on 3rd and 4th Street and Main Street in La Crosse.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because it was, you know, as soon as today is uncomfortable, I'm going to go and work at the place next door for the same wage.
Yeah, I think what's going to be interesting to see what happens here is, so I worked in retail too. I've told my birdseed story before. Yeah. You know, they appreciate that I was there, but I wasn't anything special. It was just like, hey, great to have you. If you need to leave tomorrow, we can replace you. Yeah. And I think that dynamic is changing.
Yeah. Now they can't,
because of the way the job market is and a lot of stuff talked about here.
You can't find a Jeff every day anymore. No. You used to be able
Not anymore.
Yeah, that birdseed's not going to spill itself.
I didn't spill it. Let's clarify here.
One thing before we leave that I thought was interesting is that, so the Bureau of Labor Statistics actually did track quits from like 1930 to 1979, but then ended the survey because
the person who was doing the quit.
Yeah, because they quit. No, because the manufacturing industry, which made up 28% of the economy, had become less important. And so that's why they stopped doing the survey.
How strange.
Yeah, it was really weird. And then in 1945, manufacturing workers were actually quitting their jobs at a monthly average rate of 6.1%. So, you know, like you said, that's down to 2.3%. But I mean, maybe that's because there's just less people out there.
Or a lot of them have already quit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you work on the JOLTS report, that's pretty cool. If you don't have to explain what it is and you're just like, what's your job? I do the JOLTS report.
No one's quitting that job. No one's quitting the JOLTS report.
I mean, is that...
nowadays?
Yeah, so what is that? That's their weenus? We're just going to abandon that Friends reference out there.
Yes.
All right. Our next most popular story this week. Ring to identify suspicious people by voice, fingerprint, or odor. A new report from Business Insider says Amazon's Ring division has filed nearly 20 patents to capture traits in an effort to sniff out suspicious people. Some of these traits include eye color, fingerprints, skin texture, gait, and even possibly odor. Ring's network of doorbell cameras could also scan neighborhoods and use advanced facial recognition software that's tied to 2,400 police and fire departments to match retinas, irises, and voices to identify criminals. The idea is that when your Ring thinks someone looks suspicious, the house locks and triggers alerts or audible alarms. Now, the altruistic hope is to use these traits to identify and catch porch pirates who currently escape capture by using a mask and a hood. But Jeff, that is this technology in its altruistic form is, no, we're just going to stop porch pirates and that's it.
Man, you want it to. You really do. Like this is very well intended, and it is important to say these are just patents that they've applied for. Right. This technology has not been developed yet in its full scope, I guess. Yeah, it just, man, you just think of all the bad things that could happen here. Facial recognition software and that whole technology is under such scrutiny right now. There's been a lot of law enforcement agencies who have basically disbanded it, just don't use it because it's not as reliable. And it does lead to a lot of problems, a lot of privacy concerns, a lot of false accusations. And then when you bring in the fact that you're going to also have a human component where they can basically add to this potential database of sort of suspicious characters and exhibiting certain behaviors or smells or the way they walk. Yeah. Man, I've seen the neighborhood Facebook page and certain demographics when they talk about suspicious people, it makes my skin crawl. It just, I don't think we can trust the human factor. I don't think we can trust the technology factor yet. And then when you have all of this going into an Amazon controlled database,
tied into law enforcement,
I think we're just asking for some sort of social revolt here.
Oh man. No, talking about those neighborhood Facebook pages, if they have the ability to see anyone on the Ring and mark them as suspicious, I know the top 10 people in my neighborhood who are just going to sit there and anyone that walks by, suspicious, suspicious. Yeah. Just like he's carrying a painting, he's suspicious. Anna, the other thing that got me was they said skin texture. And a lot of this facial recognition has problems with different pigmentation. So are they saying skin texture specifically because of perhaps some sort of tattoo identification? or just because when they say skin, they are already talking about a can of worms that is causing a lot of problems.
Yeah. Anytime we try to develop an algorithm to define something as nebulous as suspicious, I think it's clear that bias will easily creep in here, to Jeff's point. You look at, so Ring was awarded a patent in October called Neighborhood Alert Mode, which you were just kind of talking through, but it does let people alert their neighbors with a video, picture, anything that they deem to be either, quote, annoying or suspicious.
Yeah.
This just feels really dystopian to me.
Yeah. And then they trigger that alert, and then your Ring lets you know if people fitting that physical or biometric traits are in your area.
Right.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. And to be honest, like if your home needs security, then I think finding a solution that secures it would be the best, right? Rather than networking across communities to provide footage and documentation of every movement and stuff of people in your neighborhood that could be perceived as a threat because I don't know. We don't know why, based on features. So I mean, we've seen study after study that has showed that facial recognition technology, as Jeff said, is incomplete. It is inaccurate in many cases. It's not there to be, it's not precise.
It's unreliable.
Right. So perhaps these added variables are an attempt to make it more accurate, but I think at what cost? As I've said before, the more this technology exists, the more it's publicized, the more neighborhood safety apps like Nextdoor become these sort of beehives of suspicion and accusation. I think it just convinces people more and more that they need this kind of technology. And I'm not the only one who feels this way. Like, Vox did a really good report a couple years back that talked about Nextdoor and Amazon and how this phenomenon kind of feeds itself. And they say that the more these systems exist, the more people socialize about crime and speculate about crime, and actually violent crime is at historic lows in many communities in the United States. But you would never know that or think that based on this stuff and how it exists and how it sort of feeds into this, phenomenon. So
I think that there's a line between capturing this type of information and then leaving it into the hands of everyday people to apply it and use it. We've talked, it sounds kind of cheesy, but like watching TV shows or anything, or even real life crime stuff where they talk about the things that they can capture from video and apply it to identify terrorists and other people like this. But that is different than that information is in the hands of trained professionals, IT folks, law enforcement. I think when you start putting this into homeowners' reach, that can go sideways so fast.
Well, it's in the hands of professionals, and it's already gone sideways.
Yeah,
so Anna, you say at what cost? At great cost. You talk about it being dystopian, but we talk about a larger, surveillance police state, and this is an initial step in that direction.
Yeah.
All under the auspices of a neighborhood watch. You're right. I believe I've told the story again or previously, but we had one suspicious person that was identified in our neighborhood one afternoon during the pandemic. And this person went to Facebook right away and just said, "Hey, there's a Suburban parked outside my house. I don't know what they're doing in there, but they haven't moved. What's going on?" And then 5 minutes later, after the entire neighborhood rallies, just like, I don't know what it is. It's a silver car. It looks like a Ford. Is it a Ford? And then it's just like the woman who was in the car gets on Facebook and says, "Hi, it's just me. My house was loud. I'm eating lunch in the quiet."
Oh my God.
And it's just...
Thank God we cracked that.
Yeah. And so then there's all this, I'm so sorry. And then there's all these people just saying like, this is the problem with, Facebook, investigations. But I just see more of that happening. And especially with Odor, geez, we have like 10 suspicious odors going on in the studio right now.
Hey, could you program this for exceptions? Like that's gin and buffalo wings. That's just David.
You're right. No, that's just our neighbor that walks by our house and smokes cigarettes every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I just see your phone getting blown up all the time. And not the hot sauce all the time. Sometimes it's like a spicy garlic. You gotta switch
I'll program both of those in.
Yeah, like a hot barbecue.
All the sauces.
Just put everything from BW in there. And they'll just, instead of like warning you, it'll just be like, David's here.
Yeah, it's safe.
Yeah. All right. Our next most popular story this week: startup's battery gets 752 miles per charge. Our Next Energy, or One, is a battery tech startup in Michigan. The company says it has created a new prototype that powered a test vehicle for 752 miles without charging. The test vehicle was a Tesla Model S, which normally has a range of about 396 miles per charge. The road test was completed in December at an average speed of 55 miles per hour. Next, One will try to commercialize the design in a product they call Gemini. A production prototype could be out by next year. Not only will this help diffuse range anxiety with EVs, but it could mean that we don't need as many electricity stations as we thought previously with infrastructure.
Electricity stations.
Jeff, your thoughts on this impressive range for a new EV battery?
Yeah. So again, I think this falls under a well-intended promotion, putting out what we're doing, talking about this great research. But honestly, I think this could actually almost do more harm to the whole concept of how we want everybody to feel good about electric vehicles.
Yeah.
This test was conducted on a dynamometer in a climate-controlled environment with no creature comforts running, nobody actually in the vehicle, no outside elements basically affecting operation of this vehicle. Okay?
No, there was.
It was and ran at 55 miles an hour the whole time.
Yeah, but no, there was an outdoor test and there was the dyno test. On the dyno test, they actually did 882 miles.
Okay.
But still,
I feel like this testing skews a bit because it's not real world conditions.
Yeah.
And I think as a result, this 750, that's great. If that can happen, we want everybody to feel so good about electric vehicles. And I understand why. We do. And we wanted to relieve this anxiety. But when we put out these types of numbers, just like Mercedes last week, talking about 600 miles on a virtual simulation, I think that sets people up to be disappointed because they see all this stuff. Well, my electric vehicle, I'm not going to have to worry about this. Well, you still do. You still have to focus on different environmental factors impacting how that battery is going to be able to put out enough power to go wherever you're going. Because if you've got 3 kids with devices plugged in, streaming video in the back, guess what? That's going to affect the mileage range of that EV.
Yeah.
If you have to have the air conditioning going higher, if they need the heating like we got right now going, guess what? That's going to have an impact.
Yeah.
And when you look at somebody like Tesla who's done more testing, real world applications with an actual car that they built and put their own battery into, that is going to be more accurate. So I do worry about some of these startups throwing out some of these numbers. I mean, we've seen false claims. I'm not saying this is false, but some of these claims from Nikola, Lordstown, other folks who have just got everybody so excited about something, and it just doesn't quite work out.
We have seen exaggerated data previously because you're right. They want to make a splash. You raised another interesting point. So when EVs become more commonplace, how much more strict are you going to have to be with the devices in the car? Because if you're going on a road trip, it's like, hey, you have one charge and maybe you have that external battery pack, but you can't plug it into the car. Otherwise, we're not going to make it. Anna, it just seems like another step or another part of the battery arms race. And how did you find this? Personally, I thought the range was pretty exciting. Yeah,
it is exciting. I think I'm with Jeff a little bit on, I think you need to have a healthy amount of skepticism when it comes to these types of tests. We know a lot of money and effort and development is being funneled into this industry because there's a lot of payoff coming, right? And we have seen some sort of deflated businesses in electric vehicles over the last few years. No names will be mentioned, but there's a lot
already mentioned.
Yeah, already been mentioned by me. I mean, no, a lot of people are scrambling to get into the market, right? So yes, I think this is marketing, but like if it's anywhere close to reality, if this thing works, then it's huge for EVs. So I think that's probably why they're talking about it.
Yeah. Do you think that it was intentional that they chose a Tesla Model S? Because obviously a startup like this is to prove that your tech works and then hopefully get bought by a bigger
So you think
player.
they're courting Tesla just by using that in the, potentially, I don't know.
So. Yeah.
I mean, we know Teslas also are, the most road tested EV really at this point. So that could be another reason. But I do think that it would take away range anxiety for a lot of people. 700 plus miles per charge is way better than any gasoline tank can offer you. I think it removes some of the onus on public infrastructure. I do, because if, I know that people think that they need to have a charging station that's public, and everywhere that we have a gas station now, I don't think that is true. As we talked about previously, like when you have the option of charging with a portable charger or in your home or something, then I don't think that the amount of stations that we need is equivalent to what we would need with a petrol station. That said, we got an interesting email from a viewer of the podcast, or a listener, this week, that pointed out that in our discussions of battery development technology, we continue to fail to mention the fact that public infrastructure would also include electricity capacity in terms of what's coming from the grid. And right now we don't have enough to support, even in some places, people's lives, their houses, keeping warm in the winter, right? So thanks to Kevin for weighing in on that. It's an excellent point. I think very valid in this discussion as well.
No, that was, what was the documentary that came out about the grid not being able to take EVs? And then it was debunked and taken off of YouTube and everything immediately. Just like, we can't have that kind of information out there.
Well, it is real, and that's where, even if you're not a fan of President Biden, a lot of the initiatives that he was pushing, call them green, environmental, whatever, they dealt with infrastructure, and part of it was having a grid that can support these types of power sources, if you will. And that's gonna be important regardless. If it's EVs or anything else, we've got a lot of work to do on the grid. The fact that we know now that the OEs have gotten so strongly behind this push for electric vehicles, that reinforces it and actually gives more of a clearer picture of what we do need moving forward.
Right. All right. Our next most popular story this week. New Jeep plant addresses odor problem. A new Jeep plant in Detroit has received more than 50 odor complaints. As a result, Stellantis has had to conduct an odor investigation and claims to have come up with a solution. Stellantis previously stated that the odor came from exhaust that was not being routed through emissions control systems, and said that it wouldn't cause any health risk. Still, residents complained that it was hurting their quality of life. After further modeling, the company will now add, quote, a completely new and dedicated regenerative thermal oxidizer, as well as odor-reducing technologies at specific places in the plant. Some have reported that the intense odors are coming from the automaker's paint line. Stellantis was hit with 3 air quality violations last year. They declined to provide a timeline or cost calculation for the repairs, though the company did say that they were waiting on specifics from suppliers on lead times for equipment. So, Jeff, this seems like an interesting story to me because a lot of people complained. Jeep said, nuh-uh. And then they ran the test and they're like, you know what? Not because anyone said anything or the fines, but we're going to do the right thing going forward.
Yeah, man, Detroit cannot catch a break.
This was their break.
I mean,
this was their break.
Geez, they get a new $4.5 billion facility. First one that's been built in Detroit in, what was it, 3 decades?
30 years, yeah.
I mean, and then they have this issue, and it's bothersome because Stellantis comes out and says it would not cause a health risk in terms of talking about the industrial exhaust that was coming out of the facility. Well, define that, please.
Is this a doctor saying this, or is this their like marketing person?
What is that? Because when you've got kids going to the hospital and everything else, obviously for some people, it's definitely a health risk.
Have you ever been near any of those, the areas of a factory where they paint? Like if that's what's coming out of there. I mean, we were at a caster factory where they were painting like 10 casters at a time. And I'm like, can someone open a window?
I worked on a paint line. Actually, I took parts off once they went through the oven and stuff like that. And even when you saw those folks suited up in what they were wearing, obviously, they only ran the paint line for so long because it did have to, the air purification that needed to take place and all that kind of stuff. And even when they came through the oven, there was definitely some smells.
That's what I always found interesting is that, so the people doing the painting are completely suited up head to toe, but I'm right outside and they're like, no, you're fine. You don't even need a mask. Like, I don't see how that's real, but okay. Anyway.
No, so Stellantis obviously needs to do a better job here. One of the things that I was looking at was these regenerative thermal oxidizers that they're talking about putting in place. This is not actually a small thing. Stellantis actually admitting that more of these are needed, or the ones that were there were not working well enough. These are $1 million pieces of equipment that are used to basically burn off all of the bad stuff that comes from the emissions, whether it's the paint lines, just normal industrial fumes, whatever it is, before it gets basically turned into steam and released out of the facility.
Yeah.
However, again, listen to the people that are around here. This is not just the community that you operate in. These are also workers.
It's your families.
Yeah, this is generations of people who you could be looking for as for a workforce. We've talked about labor issues in manufacturing for quite a while here.
Yeah.
Take care of your workforce, take care of this community, and this can continue to be a great story here. Jeep is one of those American vehicles that continues to be iconic, to sell well, to obviously they just spent $4.5 billion on this facility.
Yeah.
Support all that by making it safe.
Yeah.
It's not, it doesn't seem too complicated.
It continues to do well because Jeeps are awesome, Jeff.
Yeah.
No, Anna, what I couldn't get over was how do you build, what was it, a $4.5 billion facility, and this kind of is lost in the entire facility design?
Yeah, you do wonder about that, but what do I know about building a manufacturing plant? I guess it's just too bad that the timeline on this fix is so gray. I mean, as you mentioned, they said that they're waiting on their suppliers to provide a timeline on when these fixes will be available from a part standpoint, and we all know what's going on with the supply chain right now. I don't know if anyone's tried to get any work done around at their house, but it's not quick turnaround. So it could be
Jeff
a while.
built a shelf.
That's true.
Did it myself.
Can you fix
I had to
siding?
measure and everything.
You just need a Jeff and a tape measure.
Can you install a thermal oxidizer, Jeff?
Maybe multiple? I can watch the YouTube video.
Okay. All right.
It's a new world.
Jeff's in.
Producer Eric can help out with that.
He will do it for free.
Right? Editorial director.
He drinks a lot of beer on the job. Don't know if that helps or hurts, but it's expensive.
It helps.
I don't know. To me, like the one of the big downsides too is, and Jeff kind of got into this a little bit, but just that it's been so highly publicized. I think that something like this can really turn a community off to the idea of like a manufacturing plant in their area, and maybe even turn people off from working in manufacturing because it's feeding into this stereotype that manufacturing is like this gross, smelly,
the dirty facility myth.
Yeah, exactly. And if people don't want to live by them, like who wants to work in one, right? And auto plants are notoriously the cleanest, most innovative, most cutting edge facilities that you will find. And to hear that this one is becoming sort of this like blight or this community, I don't know, scourge. It's just, it's difficult to think like what this could be doing to that job market for, we talked earlier about like the big hole that we're in.
Yeah.
And we know that perception is still a huge problem. It's been documented. People still think to this day that these jobs are something that they're not. And I don't think that this helps.
This is not a new problem either. We've run many stories over many years about odor remediation and odor problems in communities and how that does divide a community that, supported something that was a huge win for both the company and the community alike. Jeff, I hear that people, including children, are getting sent to the hospital for breathing issues. And I just think, as a kid with as a parent of a kid with asthma, I know that I don't need any more things contributing to breathing issues, including the job maker in town. So it's just frustrating.
Well, and just to clarify too, when I first clicked on this or first started looking at the story, okay, I thought it smells bad.
Yeah.
It's not what we're talking about. It's not just a funky smell. I mean, it's obviously noxious chemicals that are being inhaled here. It makes it a bigger issue. It's not just a nuisance.
Yeah.
It's a real safety concern. And OSHA's been there 3 times.
Yeah, they've been fined. Talking more about the teeth of OSHA, huh? No, growing up in Chocolate City, USA, knowing that growing up with a childhood filled with the scent of chocolate wafting through the city, I just couldn't imagine how my childhood would be different if that was paint. I'm going to say worse.
Definitely worse. So you grew up in Fort Atkinson, Anna?
Yeah.
When NASCO was doing their stuff,
Yeah.
with the tater tots and all that kind of stuff, do you remember those smells coming out of there?
You're thinking of McCain, maybe?
Oh, you're right. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was awesome. That was amazing.
No,
So
it
it
was
smelled
not
like
amazing.
tater
It's not
tots?
amazing when it's like 7:00 in the morning and you're trying to run like suicide sprints for tennis practice and you can smell. Oh,
Oh, it was incredible. Yeah, because I worked in Fort Atkinson.
Okay.
We all did actually at
Yeah.
one point. And yeah, when they had that place going, you smelled the whole town smelled like tater tots. It's
Man.
incredible.
Does it still do that?
incredibly bad though.
Oh,
I loved it.
yeah, I don't know. I'm going to side with Jeff on this one. Just like, I like to get up and do, what are the murder sprints?
Suicide?
Suicides. Didn't you ever do those in
Oh,
sports?
yeah, I do.
Okay.
But, you know, to chocolate.
yeah,
It was easier to chocolate.
not to onion rings. Yeah, it's not. It's not better.
Man, the smell of fried bar food in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
This is more of like a Sunday brunch. All right. Our most popular story this week, and really it's been a very popular story over the years, the San Francisco luxury high-rise tilting 3 inches per year. The Millennium Tower in San Francisco just won't stop sinking. According to Ron Hamburger, the engineer charged with righting the ship, the 58-story luxury apartment building is tilting about 3 inches per year. If they can't find and fund a fix, in a few years, the tower will reach a 40-inch tilt, which means elevators and even plumbing would no longer work. Still, he says the building remains safe and that installing 18 steel piles to bedrock is the best way to stop the tilting and possibly reverse some of it. Jeff, at some point, you just got to call it, right?
Man, it's amazing. Was it like $100 million project they were going to spend to put these pillars
Put
in
the
there?
piles in, yeah.
But what they continue to miss is the fact that they have nothing to anchor them to. Like there's no bedrock for these pillars to grab onto. So they're basically just pounding more stuff in the mud.
They're pounding more sand.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the one thing I thought was kind of interesting when people when they first opened up the Millennium Tower, one of the building's perks, and this is off theguardian.com, is the building's perks included a wine cellar, film screening room, and a button that promised to let residents summon engineering help within 15 minutes.
Super
Do you
reassuring,
think
right?
they still have that button? Is that still
I
working?
think
Does that solve it? Just press the button.
You get the button. It's
Nobody
just like
pressed it.
the engineering button has been disabled.
Hey, the whole building just moved an inch. You got anything for me
Yeah.
here? Can you
We'll send
help
a
me
guy
out?
over.
Yeah. So, I mean, when the elevator stops working, are you still going to climb the 58 stories to get your groceries up there?
What is worse?
At a slant?
No elevators or the plumbing not working on the 58th floor?
I'm going to say
Well,
plumbing.
And all the way
And
down.
are you just like waiting around for that moment? You're just going to continue to use the elevator until like that day?
Yeah, I mean,
Because I wouldn't.
I guess,
Good call.
yeah, I guess there's some, to some people it's their home, and if people tell them it's still safe, they'll stay there. But yeah, I guess the plumbing just pools on whatever,
Oh man,
that
that
on
does
whatever
not
side.
look good.
And it probably doesn't help the tilt, just like sewage resting on the side of the building.
Jeez.
Well,
yeah.
if you are interested, guys, I did find 5 condos for sale
Oh, in the building?
in the building.
what are they?
in the
what
building?
did they cost?
What would you pay for 1,000? What is it here? 1,098 square feet in the Millennium Tower on the 18th floor.
You couldn't
That's the
pay me
cheapest
to live
one.
there.
What's the price per
cheapest one.
square foot in San Francisco?
I don't know what it is in San Francisco. I can tell you what it is in this building.
Okay.
So the 5 that I found on Vanguard properties that are currently up for sale range between 1,098 and 1,952 square feet. Their prices are between 1.3 and $3 million.
Nope.
Like, do you buy it just hoping to make a multiple on the impending lawsuit?
Tough sale. If you find the real estate, like this is the reality show. They've got all those reality shows for
Oh,
the real
yeah.
estate agents selling Sunset and all that. No. Sell Millennium Tower.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
kidding.
Now you're a real estate agent.
I want those property brothers to fix this problem. And Vanilla Ice. It'll be a real all-star team. Can't say I'd do it for 1.3. Or like I said, I don't think you could pay me to live there.
Nope.
Yeah.
So what's the floor?
The most expensive one is $1,500 a square foot.
Okay. So maybe you buy on the 18th floor, Anna, hoping that to remedy this, they just take 20 and above off.
They just slop off the top.
Yeah, just take a little off the top.
Yeah. Yep.
Just fix it.
I don't know. I just at what point are we just gonna, like you said, call it? Like, does it make sense at some point to just raise this? Because we know that this settling is continuing while they are dumping hundreds of millions of dollars into fixing it, and it is getting worse. So
fast.
I don't know. It seems like the problem is not solved. They've already settled, with the property owners, but I don't feel like the property owners are getting out probably what their equity would have been. Are we just going to wait for this building to collapse in a very densely populated area of one of the United States' most populated cities? Like, that's a very dense urban center. And I just feel like, I'm not trying to be dramatic here, but are we not like one earthquake away from like a unstable, very tall building like going down? And I mean, that would be tons of collateral damage.
Well, the justification there is, and again, I'm not a seismologist,
right?
But the San Andreas Fault does not run close enough, apparently, to this building.
Should be all good
to create those concerns.
So, okay, this building.
But I'm with you.
So, if you look at the map, this building is surrounded by buildings that are owned by Salesforce. There's Salesforce Park, Salesforce Plaza, Salesforce West and East. Now, maybe if Millennium Tower isn't going to do anything on its own, or the city isn't going to do anything on its own, maybe Salesforce or surrounding communities or companies can sue to have it taken down. Just because that is, it's 60 stories falling in San Francisco.
Well, and traditionally they don't build buildings that tall because of the risk of earthquakes in California. And this was, I think, one of the tallest buildings in the city. So it's pretty scary that it is not very stable. And I don't know, you just wonder, like, with the insurers involved and stuff too, like, are they, can you get insurance for this building? Like, what happens? I don't know. I have
to imagine you can't. So, just like you call and they laugh and hang up on you.
Yeah. So like, hey, this leaning building fell on my car or something, or, what, I don't know. It just seems like a very, very massive liability that I cannot believe that they're still dealing with. But there's obviously tons of money already wrapped up in this project. So to get that 3-inch tilt per year, that's only a 1/2 inch of settlement every year. And I just don't know how you live in this thing with peace of mind. We've seen a couple of structures locally be closed because there's been a lot of people looking into buildings that are on the water ever since the collapse in Miami. And so we had a very large building in Madison shut down and completely evacuated because it was dangerous. Yeah. I just don't know what it takes to get to that point here.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for how long? It's just, and it continues. And like, I'm surprised there isn't more than 5 people trying to sell. I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
But how do you even?
I don't know. All right. Well, let's move on to In Case You Missed It. And in case you missed it, we like to talk about stories that were maybe not as popular on the website, but still stand to make a big impact on the industry going forward. I'll go first. My story this week was a company collecting faces for a robot project. You guys look at this one at all?
No.
All right. Thanks for the click.
I did. It was great. It was really fantastic.
No.
Producer Alex was really excited. He came out of the studio going, David does some weird stuff.
Yeah, right. And that was just talking about my personal life.
That's true, yeah.
All right. Russian company Promobot recently offered any person $200,000 for the rights to their face. The company's humanoid project was looking for a face that could be used on humanoid robot assistants in everywhere from, retail outlets to hotels, all over the world. By signing over the rights to your face, Promobot would own it forever, and the other condition was that it had to be a kind and friendly face.
We're out.
I know. Man. The company had to suspend the application submissions after more than 20,000 people happily obliged and applied. The company said it would take about 12 months to decide on the winning face. After that, Promobot will make a 3D model of the winning face and record 100 hours for the speech capturing your voice for the hyper-realistic robot. Anna, would you sell your face?
I think so. I think so, because it's not always going to look like this. Probably get pretty old soon.
Yeah.
So
kinder? That sounds kinder. It's a kinder face, yeah.
Yeah, but I would not be accepted because I have a mean-looking face. People don't talk to me on airplanes, which I appreciate. But I think it's because of the firm I'm reading my book and drinking my coffee, get out of here face that I just do naturally. So I don't think I would be chosen.
So Anna's out because of the I want none of your business face she gives us in the office all day. Jeff, how about you? Would you sell your face so that way it could sell fries as an autonomous robot in McDonald's until the end of time?
Hey, it's the McDonald's guy.
Would you like fries with that?
Absolutely, but I'm with Anna. I have people come and say, "Are you mad?" Is everything
Bro,
okay?
you mad? Yeah.
So I don't think my face would work either. I think that benefited my past as a drill sergeant. So I don't think that's the type of vibe they're trying to give off here for selling stuff, especially something is like a Happy Meal.
Yeah.
Sad meal.
Just like
mad meal.
Get it and eat it meal.
Ever since we rolled out Jeff on the robot line, no one's buying anything.
But nobody gets out of line either. Like we have the most well-behaved customers.
I just thought this was an incredibly insane idea. And also one of the dark sort of aspects of it that I thought is that if you do sell your face and then once you pass on, I don't want to be in 100 different locations. So when my kid goes to buy, something at the toy store, his dead dad is selling it to him.
This is very specific.
Wow, you did go dark.
It's just a Black Mirror episode.
Right. Yeah. This would be okay.
Well, because so they talk about how there are these there are AI, different types of AI out there where it'll take everything that you've written that's publicly available on social media, and you can also load different samples, stuff like that, and it creates an AI that can interact with people after you die.
Right? Yeah, I've seen that stuff. I just
load it into a robot that looks like you.
You just took a lot of steps into how this would play out, and I don't know that would happen.
Yeah, do you think they're going to use that same face forever? They're going to want to change it up.
No, and they're not going to. They're going to go bankrupt.
It's production.
Anna's not worried because this is a failure.
Yeah. I don't have to think about this because it's already going to fail. No, but it's how they only make 8 different
story
colors.
Choice.
Yeah, they only make 8 different colors of a car. It's not like they're going to make a few of each face. They're going to make tens of thousands of these faces, and they're going to be everywhere.
And you think in the near term, David Manty's face is going to be selling Legos at Toys R Us?
Probably at a Legoland.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, because Toys R Us ain't coming back.
That's true.
Yeah, that ship is sailed.
But couldn't you sort of? This is the same thing for any type of model in a catalog, right? Technically, that face is there forever, I guess.
I guess I don't know. Whoever the first mannequin was, modeled after.
Kim Cattrall.
Maybe their friends and family are hanging out at
What's that?
I said Kim Cattrall, but that's because she's in the movie.
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, mannequin. Wow, there's a reference.
I thought you said Cant control.
Sorry, everyone.
The other thing that I found interesting was, so this was unveiled at CES 2020.
Okay.
The company actually used Arnold Schwarzenegger's face on a product they called the Android Robo-C. And the company said that they had the actor's permission, but then he sued them for $10 million for using his looks without permission.
See, they're going to go bankrupt.
They paid off.
Yeah.
Plus, what is your face going to look like on a robot? Weird, not anything like you.
No. That's, one of the things that I just really have to point everybody to is to see the pictures that they provided in terms of, they had one test guy who came out, and of course, where is this guy? All right. So it's not even going to fire, but it shows the first subject in the robot they made from his face. And I guess I said close, but not really.
Like Ken doll, you know what I mean? It's not gonna.
Yeah.
So what do you have to worry about? See, all your fears are gone.
Sell your face, David. Just
for $200,000?
Sell your face.
I can't even get a down payment in the Millennium Tower for that. Anyway, and that stands to make a big impact on the industry going forward. Jeff,
thanks for sharing, David.
Jeff, what's your in case you missed it this week?
So I cut this article called "What is Wish Cycling?" Kind of caught my eye because I do get yelled at a lot at home for not recycling stuff. I'm one who kind of just throws it away. I can do better there. So my wife and kids are trying to help me. But wish cycling is defined as putting something in the recycling bin and hoping it'll be recycled, even if there is little evidence to confirm this assumption. So basically what it's saying is people are putting a lot of stuff in there that should not go into the recycling bin. And the problem, looking at the article here, Contaminating the waste stream with material that is not actually recyclable makes the sorting process more costly because it requires extra labor. Wish cycling also damages sorting systems and equipment and depresses an already fragile trading market. So what's happening is a lot of municipalities are going the other way with it. They're basically, if you're not sure, throw it away. When in doubt, throw it out.
Yeah.
That's basically what they're saying. And it was kind of interesting to me just to see a story that goes the other way a little bit.
Yeah.
It also kind of educated me because there's some of these where they're like, don't throw this in the recycling. And the ones that I am definitely guilty of are what they call the no-tanglers, which are like cords and hoses. I am definitely guilty of that. Bad extension cord, bad garden hose.
Into the recycling?
Yeah, I did. I have. So I was wrong there. The other thing was no scrap metal. And I have to admit, if I've got hardware, other stuff like that, when I put up the shelves, there was some extra hardware left because why would you need all that?
Yeah.
Ended up going into the recycling, which I was wrong. So it was. I thought it was interesting that way.
No, we definitely have a wish cycler household as well, where because of the old man nerdy things that I like to do, every year the Department of Waste sends out the list of things that you can recycle.
Yeah, what is it called again? I can't remember. It's I
can't remember either.
Recyclationary or something. No.
Yeah, but like, oh no, it's the Recyclopedia. It's the Recyclopedia.
Wow.
Yeah.
Recyclationary. That's not it.
Yeah, no, it was like, it made big news last year or 2 years ago because they started accepting pizza boxes that were dirty. So normally,
they did?
Yeah, normally you couldn't put cardboard that had food waste in there.
Yeah.
But it's a big thing in my house because sometimes things go into the recycling and I feel like somebody that's, fixing your grammar, which is like, actually, this is not recyclable.
I do that too, though. And I do it at the office. Sometimes I'm like fishing stuff out of there, which is totally insane.
Yeah, no, you look in there and you're just like amateur hour with these wish cyclers.
Foam, come on.
No, Anna, how do you prevent your house from being a wish cycling household?
Well, my husband has gotten so used to me being insane about it that he just sometimes will just leave things out and let me decide, which is super annoying, by the way.
Yeah.
Chris.
Well, Chris, I do the same thing. So
because he's like, I don't know what to do with it.
When in doubt, throw it out.
You have to, because like the risk is like in no uncertain terms, like your bag of recyclables is much more likely to get put in the trash stream if you put stuff in there that's not supposed to be in there. So like think about it like you could wish that this one thing gets recycled, but if the person decides that this is a contaminated bag, your whole bag of would-be recyclable, real recyclable things goes in the trash.
Yeah.
So it is important to kind of understand what you can and cannot do, but it is based on municipality, and a lot of these places more and more are having trouble recycling just even basic stuff. So it's kind of, recycling is really, we produce a lot of plastic and a very small fraction of it gets recycled in reality. So it's important, I think, people to instead of thinking about like, is it recyclable, also think about like, do I need to use it in the first place?
That was one of the things they talked about that I learned actually quite a bit reading this article was the plastic stuff. A lot of it cannot be recycled.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was definitely something I was wrong on.
We talk about problems with labeling a lot on this podcast and in this industry. One that they've gotten a lot better on is instructions for recycling. If you look at cartons, it'll say this carton is only recyclable if you take the label off. It's only recyclable if you. There was one that I had where you actually could only recycle it if the cap was put back on. It was really weird, but specific instructions that made me feel better about it. Like one. Sorry, before we get off of it, that happens in our house a lot is any glass. So like any broken glass or something like that goes in the recycling. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you can't recycle that. And for me, it's, we just had Christmas, so we're burning a lot of candles, trying to get through the new candle inventory. And it was just, we had one and I was going to recycle it. I'm like, it doesn't say I can recycle it, so I'm going to throw it in the trash. It's just, and because of the amazing marketing job that the green movement has done, you can't do that without feeling guilt. You're just like, I think I got to put the candle in the garbage.
I'm so sorry, and, tears.
Right? People are crying everywhere, and I'm a bad person. So no, I found this article really cool too, Jeff. And isn't it? It's just great how reading does help us learn things.
Wow.
I'm talking about
one to grow on with David Mantey. First, he
Yeah.
went super dark
Everybody.
about,
Yeah.
you know, his face and posterity and how it's going to affect his children.
Well,
and
let's
now
talk-
he's talking about reading.
It wasn't my face. I'm like using a hypothetical, kinder and friendlier face than mine because, like you guys said, I mean, I'm not going to be picked.
I think of all three of us, you are picked.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
would
so.
agree with that.
No, I don't know. They see this like poor Midwest grill and they're like, no one's going to buy it.
Poor Midwest grill.
Anna, what is your, in case you missed it this
All
week?
right. So if you feel like a bad person for throwing a candle away, I have a worse person for you. This will help you kind of get back in line.
Great.
So the article that I chose was about how ultra luxury automakers posted record sales volumes in 2021. So vehicle sales increased last year in general, but still remained shy of their pre-pandemic numbers. But one very niche subset of the market, however, came out stronger than ever, and that was ultra luxury auto brands. And we're talking like Bentleys, Rolls Royces, those two companies. They saw record sales numbers. And I selected the story to share because of something the CEO of Rolls Royce said about their banner year, and I think it made a lot of people squirm. It wasn't actually included in this report, but he was talking about their great year in 2021, and he said that, quote, quite a lot of people witnessed people in their community dying from COVID. That makes them think life can be short and you'd better live now than postpone it to a later date. And that was reported by the Financial Times. He added that this helped Rolls-Royce sales quite massively. So if you already felt good about the fact that the rich got like way richer during the pandemic, know that some of them are literally acknowledging the benefit of COVID deaths in lining their pockets. And that, I mean, obviously it was true, but it was very distasteful, I thought. So
What a weird thing to say.
And intensifying like midlife crises all throughout the nation.
I know. And I realized that the CEO of Rolls Royce only has to like not offend probably 1% of the population, like the rest of us.
Yeah.
He's like, whatever they think of me, I don't care. But I still thought it was pretty gross. I don't know.
Does that give you, sorry, Jeff, does that give you 1%er street cred? When you just flat out come out and say like, yeah, you know what? Luckily, because of all this death, we're all crushing it.
Man, what a weird thing to say.
Weird.
Like when you have these record sales, there's so many softballs to throw out there. Well, it's because of the dedication of our employees and the quality of our product and all this other stuff. No, we're just happy people are worried about dying. You know, that's, I mean, who does that?
Right? Just like, luckily because of COVID, you can't go on vacations. Because of the supply shortage, you can't really do anything to your house.
Yeah, I mean,
there's
You got
all
money
this
to
money
burn.
that rich people need
Yeah.
to burn, and it's
We
coming
only-
to Bentley.
Yeah, I mean, we only have to make like 100 cars a year, so we're good.
Yeah. So there's that.
You're right. You know what?
You're trying to bring us up, but then,
Yep.
you know.
I ordered these incorrectly.
Do you feel better now?
I thought that was going to be sunnier than the face selling. I was wrong.
Sorry.
When does a car, what separates an ultra luxury car from a luxury car?
I don't know.
Like 50 grand?
If you
I don't know.
you can't afford it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I don't even know what to look. What separates you from us? No. Is there like a line there?
I don't know what the benchmark is if it's like over $100,000 or something, or
Is there a base model Bentley? I mean,
200,000, 300. Yeah. I mean, like, check. Yeah. Google it. I
A
don't know.
base Bentley cost.
$250,000.
No, that is 200.
200 base, huh? What is it?
I wasn't far off.
To
A
get
base.
into
What's 50K?
Yeah.
get out of 200K, I'll get you into a Bentley Flying Spur.
If you have to stretch to get a base Bentley, like,
The other Bentley owner's like, oh.
Yeah.
He's on the bottom 50% of our 1%,
do it.
so don't let him in.
yeah.
Is that like the bargain room salesperson? It's like, oh, you need to go over there.
We have this one. It's purple. Nobody bought it.
Wow, one of the phrases that has
got-
emerged lately that I really enjoy is "read the room, man." Like,
I know, right?
Yeah, it's but I mean, if anything, when CEOs lose on tone, it serves to entertain us.
I guess, yeah, and offend us.
I
But
was going to say, Anna is not entertained. I think she's got the face that is not going to win her the 200 grand going right now.
yeah, I'm not selling fries with this face. That's not pleased.
Oh, right. Well, before we get out of here, let's move on to our final thoughts this week. Anna, what is your final thought?
Don't start with me. I don't have one.
My final thought this week was that while I haven't been in the office for more than 5 hours this week, and I mentioned this a couple of times when we were recording the podcast throughout the pandemic, as a result of having the kid at home all week, just one of them, it gave me a little bit more personal time to be one-on-one with the kid. Des, I don't want to.
The kid.
The kid. It just sounds weird, but it's like, you don't want to put him out there. And it was, while it was very difficult from a work and production sort of efficiency perspective, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And, we had a nicer week, so we were able to get outside and have a snowball fight, and the neighbors got to watch as I just pelted this kid with snowballs. And, I just it was nice to just kind of step back, and while it was very difficult, I can't do it again next week. So Miss Mary, please, God, come back. But for 1 week, we got there. As I say this, I know that my wife might even be listening to this live as she's taking care of him alone and just screaming at the screen, "Get back now!" But no,
Isn't it nap time yet?
Yeah, we're deep into nap time, so if not sleeping yet, it's a bad house. Anna, any chance on a rebound on a final thought?
Yeah, no, I know how that goes. Being at home with the kids and you're trying to work and and they just love my computer and they just want to press the buttons.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys, when you press them, it tells the computer to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, can we see a picture of a planet? And it's one thing after another. Can I listen to a song about dinosaurs? Mm-hmm. It's not stuff that is applicable to my work. But.
It has been confirmed that my wife, Carrie, is in fact watching this live, so that's good. And she's maybe not happy I'm calling him the kid. But the one thing that he likes to do is he likes to sit quietly next to you while you're working, and then at the most random moment, slap it. And then not only do you hear the slap, you hear the "Ah!" And
oh man,
yeah, and that happens multiple times a day.
It's slow burn. Huh?
Sounds nice. Sounds nice.
Yeah, it's just and then it's if this happens one more time, 20 times, I still don't know what's going to happen.
They don't get what's going on. It's not their fault.
True. You were born in a pandemic. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to be weird when you grow up. Weirder than if I just raised you normally. Jeff, what is your final thought this week?
Well, David, if in all having the kids at home all that much, if you do have any issues with teeth falling out, which would be which was the question we had last week, the trivia question.
Segue. I was just not a smooth
segue.
I didn't hit him that hard with the snowball.
Not a smooth segue. But anyway, we did ask last week, if you do lose a tooth, what's the best way to keep that tooth sort of ready to go before you take it to the dentist? What should you put it in? The answer was not beer. It was also not salt water. The answer was milk. And shout out to Chuck, Larry, Eric, Marina, and Chris, who all got the right answers.
Nice.
So they all scored a t-shirt. And now we'll go on to this week's trivia.
I don't even know what this one is.
Yeah, before we go on to this week's, I want to do a poll as to how many manufacturing facilities have milk on site. This is got to be in the first aid kit.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Because it's you're going to be the person that knows. You're going to be Chuck, Larry, Chris, and someone's going to lose a tooth and just be like, "Give me the milk."
So you're saying buy a carton of milk, replace it weekly, potentially.
Well, don't buy ones that are so close to their expiration date.
In the event that someone gets a tooth knocked out?
Well, it's there.
Yeah, you got to be prepared.
Yeah, it's there for the people to enjoy. It's enjoy all of this milk except a Dixie cup amount in the event of a lost tooth.
Keep a Dixie cup amount.
Yeah,
okay.
Just need a rolling Dixie cup of milk.
Exactly.
Jeff, what do we got this week?
All right. Different type of safety question here. We are asking, where do most fatal falls occur in the house? Not the manufacturing facility, around the house.
We're not supposed to answer.
Where? Do not answer.
Yeah.
Is it a room or is it
it is
anywhere
location.
on the property?
It is a location. And I think it's safe to say everybody has one of these in their house.
So it's not a silo. Okay. That was my...
It's not a grain.
Around the house, where
it's not a
the
grain
most
silo.
fatal... Man, it's not just getting hurt, it's fatal. Fatal falls.
Well, that's a good one to take into the weekend.
Yeah, uplifting note, right?
Go home, see all the places that are easiest to die.
Wow, David.
Well, that's what you're asking.
That you don't have to put it that way.
Oh, okay.
It's more like a fun trivia question.
Oh, okay. So go home, look around your house, and find all the nice places to die. Better?
And then don't do that.
Well,
Be safe in that location.
yes. Pat it.
Wow.
Wow,
Well,
this podcast just took a fatal
yeah.
fall.
Let's see if we can bring her.
Let's get out of here.
I did want to bring back. We have been getting a lot more feedback from viewers, listeners, stuff like that. So thanks to Kevin. You mentioned Kevin wrote in. We also had some nice remarks from Lindsay. The one I wanted to bring up was actually from Marina, because we were talking a couple of episodes ago about public transport. She brought in kind of an interesting note. She said she lives in Chicago, and her biggest consideration for not using public transit was how others treat it. You know, smoking on the train, people trying to sell her stuff, worse things than that. But after selling her car during COVID and starting to utilize the buses, she saw a higher value in it. The ability to take the Blue Line to O'Hare, the airport, is great for tourism. Additionally, Chicago charges a number of additional fees for using Uber and Lyft to offset some of the congestion for those services. Also, there's also a fee for they also charge those, that's the fee that they charge these places basically for people not using public transit. And then there's also another program where you can basically have Uber plus public transit. So a different type of setup there. So basically, she kind of is taking your side of that. I was kind of not sure that public transit could be the solution in terms of, we're talking about vehicle prices and all that type of stuff. In her instance, she's seen a lot of benefit from using it because it was already there. And ideally, to your point, more people use it and get better over time.
So you were wrong.
I'm never wrong, but in this case, Marina agrees with David.
You were just less right. It's cool because it's not only pro public transportation, but it's also pro Chicago. Just not a lot of that right now.
Really?
I don't know. I love that place.
Hate the Bears.
Well, I mean, you're just like, you feel sad for them now.
Well, that's true.
Like, it's been disappointing because it's not, like, the rivalry is not even a rivalry right now.
Agreed.
You know, it's like when I worked in a shop, they used to do because of the Bear Packer rivalry. There would always be a bet, you know, like whether it was lunch or you had to wear a Packer shirt or Bear shirt the next day in the office. But like, it got to the point where it was so sad that they just stopped betting.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and if you can't gamble at lunch, come on now.
Well, you could look at these awesome safety cards.
Oh yeah,
That's true.
there's going to be a big comeback. You know.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the other closing thought is, it's awesome to hear from our listeners and viewers and stuff, and comments, questions, all that kind of stuff. Please keep it coming. We love sending out shirts. So
Let me tell you how to reach us. All right. Before we get out of here, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. To email the podcast, you can reach any of us, as Jeff said, at Jeff, Anna, or David at IEN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our daily and weekly newsletters and make sure that you get the podcast in your inbox first. All right, for Jeff and Anna, I'm David Manti. This is the Today in Manufacturing podcast, and we'll see you next week.
thank you for listening to the Today in Manufacturing podcast.